Now tonight, the politics of debt payment punctuated by three top trending words: washenzi, ujinga, and upuzi. It's a new year, but the issues remain the same. Day 8 of 2019, Sidebar begins the year on a political note as the difference in opinion threatens to divide the Jubilee Party right in the middle, across party lines. On the other side, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga continue enjoying the handshake, and the man in the middle is nowhere to be seen, at least for the past few days. Later, my panel's reflection on an artistic impression. And back in time, same time last year, talks of a split in the Jubilee Party. Find out on Sidebar. But first, my take. Now, the reason for skewed national development is historical. Since independence, development projects have largely been influenced by politics. Wielders of political power have always determined resource allocation and tenders to favor regions they come from or those that support them to the exclusion of others. Historical injustice is precisely about this. Now, some regions are better developed than others because of political powers that has been the source of ethnic tension, and that is the reason why contested or the presidency is hardly and heavily contested, and the top positions are also fiercely and bruisingly contested. Now, communities seek to have one of their own to ascend to power so that they can benefit from projects and general economic development. Nothing can be more myopic and divisive. Kenyans sought to correct this anomaly through the Constitution, whose centerpiece is devolution, creation of county systems, and express provision for financial allocation. At least 15% of the audited annual revenues was intended to create equity and cure the inequalities caused by politically influenced development. Moreover, the Constitution has created institutions such as the Office of the Controller of the Budget, Commission on Revenue Allocation, and Auditor General, whose mandate revolves around resource allocation and supervision of how the monies are used. Equally, the two-tier parliamentary system, that is the National Assembly and the Senate, play a pivotal role in the sharing out of national resources based on advice from the respective ministries and government departments. And it is these very members of parliament themselves who vote for those allocations. In the past few days, some politicians have been going around accusing President Uhuru Kenyatta of neglecting his native Mount Kenya region in regard to development, that the president has been busy doling out development projects elsewhere except in his backyard. Now, such leaders are dishonest and insincere in our opinion, and indeed this has sufficiently and justifiably angered the president, who tore into those leaders using choice words to describe them, simplistic and perverted views. It is naive to think that the president should concentrate on developing projects in the region he comes from, and as such or as much, they are entitled to development. It goes without saying that the presidency is a national office and has overreaching responsibilities beyond one's village. Unlike before, the Constitution insulates the president and the deputy from encumbrances of regionalism. They are no longer members of parliament representing any specific constituency. Rather, they are national leaders with broader mandates. Now, those members of parliament who think that they can monopolize the presidency and twist the occupant to serve their parochial interests are misguided. We deplore those leaders who think that the president owes them special favors just because he comes from their region. And in the words of Mark Twain, who is a writer, a humorist, entrepreneur, publisher, and a lecturer, patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves. My guests tonight, William Kabogo, Sylvanus Osoro, and Steve Ogolla. My name is Ken Mijungu. Sidebar, that's the hashtag for tonight. At NTV Kenya, at Ken Mijungu. Join the conversation. We'll be sampling some of your feedback. Sidebar begins right now.
We are going to create a debt recovery unit for this country.
If Kenya has to pay debt, you don't start on the top, you start from the first one.
So watatuambia ni gani ya kwanza, ni gani ya pili, ni gani.
Every single citizen is entitled to development regardless of where the leader comes from. Kwa hivyo hawa washenzi wawachane na mimi.
My stand as far as the DP is concerned, I have total support for him.
If they can behave the way he's behaving when he's number 2, they are worried how he would behave if then he ascends to number 1.
Hamuwezi kunifukuza ODM ati mkanifuata ati mnanifukuza Jubilee. Haiwezekani.
Upuzi mtupu.
Welcome, gentlemen. A good place to begin tonight's discussion. And the first question is, have these leaders been caught flat-footed? Let me begin with the governor here.
Jambo, how are you doing?
Yeah, hi. Happy New
Year.
Year.
It's a pleasure to be here. Happy New Year.
Karibu sana.
Nothing happens by accident. All this is happening because it's planned. Who has planned it? That's the big question. But we'll find out.
It's not coincidental because when we went to the election, we never thought there would be a handshake, right? Every political party thought they will win. So the handshake was not planned, it just occurred.
But Kenyans have been saying, let's unify Kenya. Let's stop violence after every election. Why do we have violence? Every 5 years.
So in your mind, this is planned?
Some of the things that are happening may be coincidental.
Okay.
But most of the things that are happening are
planned. I'd like to know about what plans are these. Let me speak to Steve, who is a lawyer. Steve, from where you sit, these leaders, you're not a politician, but these leaders, do you think they've been caught flat-footed?
I think you can. I think what has happened in the past week, the country has taken, the politics of the country has taken an ugly turn, and we must be worried about that. It is not entirely surprising, though, because you see the way, the manner in which our politics is organized. Our politics is organized around ethnic solidarity. So when you begin conversations around 2022, people are looking at blocks, and the idea that politics should be organized around ideology takes a back burner. So what I watched with a lot of concern and disappointment when you listen to people like Moses Kuria, who seems to deepen the crisis of governance because, and you mentioned that in your take, that Kenyans still view, or politicians make Kenyans believe, that the struggle for political office and political power is the struggle for co-option into the resource, into the small club of resource managers.
But that's what has happened.
So that is what has happened, and that is what the Constitution seeks to move us away from.
Okay.
If you listen to people like Murathe, I tend to support his view.
Can we talk about Murathe?
He has, he has the freedom. He has the freedom of viewpoint. I'm just pointing out. He has the freedom of viewpoint, and has the right to express himself as he did. If you listen to people like Oscar Sudi, I think Oscar Sudi deepened the crisis of ethnic animosity. Okay. If you watched his clip and how he attacked Tuju unnecessarily, I think if left unchecked, that could set a dangerous precedent. If you look at Honorable Gunjiri, he sort of speaks to the underlying tension. Wambugu. He speaks to the underlying tension in the Rift Valley that if you don't support if you don't support William Ruto, then there'll be a crisis of ethnic tension. You see, we don't want Kenyans to be cornered to take a position because of ethnic tensions, because of partisan, parochial, political interest. We want Kenyans to take positions based on what the Constitution has ordained. And so far, looking at the politics of the last week, we are very far off the mark.
Okay. The politician, it looks as though politicians are now running like headless chicken. You don't have direction. This has thrown you off guard completely.
No, I think we are reading too much, and we've been placed in some nest somewhere, and some of us are falling trap, unfortunately. From the head, right from His Excellency the President, I think the President's intention is very genuine. His assertions in regard to development countrywide is extremely genuine. But there are people who really want to drive his statements in a different direction to suit their political interests. And I'll be very particular on the sentiments made by the Honorable Moses Kuria in regard to development in Central. I mean, really, Moses Kuria is a senior member of Parliament. He actually sits in a serious committee in the House. He knows the budget-making process, and so is Honorable Ngujiri from Bahati. So he really coming out and claiming that His Excellency the President has neglected Central Kenya in terms of development, when he knows clearly what he needs to do as a legislator in the House. I think on this particular thing, I think we are reading so much. The President is very genuine in regard to what he wants to do in this country, and some people want to divert his attention, and others want to, take sides, probably to appear that, they are defending the Deputy President. But from where I sit, I do not really see a serious war between the Deputy President and the President, or the top players of this country. What we are seeing is busybodies trying to create a crisis so that they can thrive in it, in my opinion.
Okay. don't forget, before 2 days ago or 3 days ago when Moses Kuria spoke, there was a caucus of Central Kenya, Mount Kenya leaders who went to Naivasha, and the statement was read by Cecil Mbarire, and the same things that were said by Moses Kuria that were said by Cecil Mbarire.
You know, it's not really something so unique for members of a certain area, or members of parliament from a certain area, or leaders from a certain area coming together and demand development. I mean, really, Central deserves development, and so is Kisii. I mean, leaders can come together. Why is it big news when Central members of parliament, you know, speak under one voice in regard to development? It's not a big, we are reading too much over nothing, my opinion.
Okay.
That, as a matter of fact,
yes,
the exercise that is happening out there, members of parliament going to public and saying, we need this, we need that. That exercise should happen in the House.
In Parliament.
In Parliament, yes.
Exactly. Yes.
When the executive lays down their plan on what is supposed to happen the next financial year, they first have a kamukunji that whips members of Jubilee to support the government motion in terms of finances. It is at that point that that caucus should come out and tell the president, your plan for this year does not include Region A, Region B, Region C. Can we rectify it?
Okay.
And this is subjected to also public participation. Isn't it very interesting that we've sent you to Bunge to go and lobby for development in terms of the procedure, the process of budgeting that is laid down in the PMF Act.
Okay.
And also laid down in the Constitution, because it says the minister in charge of finance will lay down before the House 2 months before a certain period the plans of government, both expenditure and revenue. So it has taken 6 years for these guys to understand that we don't have development.
Okay.
I would say that from outside.
Yes.
That we need more development in Central Kenya.
Yeah, because
we
you're
need
not
more
in a position
development
to
in Kiambu.
push for it.
And I'm saying,
yeah,
why don't we start with revenue allocation?
Okay.
Is the formula right for us? We know that it's 45%. 45% parameter is population. We want it to go to 70 because ni huduma kwa jamii.
Okay.
Sio kwa wanyama.
What is
sio kwa size ya
what is
Kenya.
interesting in what you're saying for me, however, is the fact that these are elected leaders,
yes,
who should in their own right be, yes, developing their area,
yes,
through whatever means they should. Why are they crying to the president? That's more interesting to me.
You know, as I'm saying,
yes,
two-term member of parliament,
yes,
myself, I know the system that, you know, how to finance government budget. It is through the National Assembly. There is no other route.
Okay.
It is the National Assembly.
Okay.
It is at that point that it goes to the National Assembly for scrutiny, to the budget committee, all that work is done, public participation, it comes to the floor of the House.
For a parliament that...
so if you are to blame the president, you blame him together.
With yourselves.
With yourselves.
Yes.
Because it is you who was...
This is the same parliament. This is the same parliament who was which was at crossroads during the Finance Bill 2018. It's as if they never saw this coming, and yet they were supposed to know even before it happened, even before the amendment. But let me listen to him before I come to Steve.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to explain on this budget making process, and it's true. Honorable Kabogo is very clear on this. However, this is what happens. That the executive comes up with a policy statement and presents it to the National Assembly for review. And
the whole floor?
Yes. Presents it to the National Assembly, of course, through the Committee on Budget.
Okay.
And on Committee on Finance, currently led by Honorable Mijungu. And after that, of course, it takes some time, you know, people debate on it and stuff like that. But when those statements now are written and drafted on regions, because it actually must come from the executive, what a member of parliament can do is to lobby to have their region fit there. But you cannot lobby to include, because the country, what the executive wants to probably spend a certain amount of money for a certain, you know, item. You cannot lobby to have an addition over the same. That if you want a road, for instance, in Kiambu, 50 kilometers, and there is a road in the statement that 50 kilometers in Kisii, all you can do is to lobby to have the Kisii 50-kilometer road, you know, removed or erased, to replace it with the Kiambu one, to fit within the government, you know, expenditure ceiling. So if a member of parliament cannot lobby for his people, my opinion, and I think that is where I agree with Honorable Kabogo, is that you do not come back again to blame His Excellency the President and say, we are not getting development. And I really do not understand what really unique that central people really need, because I see technical vocation training institutes in Kisii. I've traveled with the Deputy President. I've seen them in central Kenya. I have seen some roads done in Kisii. I've seen some of them done in central Kenya. I agree that there are specific problems that that affect directly a certain community or a certain region. But I think there are better ways to address them, not really and trying to blackmail His Excellency the President and push him to fit some political interests.
I think our MPs are a big disappointment, because if you look at the structural arrangement and dispersal of powers, functions, powers and resources, it seems to me that the Constitution has transitioned us, but our elected leaders have not disinherited the old habit or culture of patronage, which is not consistent with this new dispensation. What they seem to be doing is urging the President to neglect and reject the Constitution and the predictable pathway for resource allocation, oversight, and implementation of government programs and policies to an unknown formula. You remember in pre-2010 dispensation, governance was based on rumors and guesswork. Passion and discretion of the President. You need something, you don't have it, he comes, now you have it. That's why for
political mileage, of course.
And that's how he was able to patronage, to patronize everyone, elected leaders, people, so that if you are not in government, it becomes difficult for you to realize what development is, because the President controlled the resources. He distributed it in ways that were unknown to people except himself and his inner cycle. But if you look at the Constitution, what elected leaders ought to tell the public and demand from the President that we want an open, transparent, and accountable resource allocation. And once the resources have been dispersed in a manner that is transparent and accountable, we follow up that money is not lost. But if you see elected leaders calling press conferences, going to retreats, and emerging from rooms and saying our region has been neglected, first, other than just expressing incompetence and dishonesty, it seems to me as a political maneuver to undermine or suppress the voices of other people who may be raising legitimate concern. Because how do you come and say we need development if Central Kenya or Mount Kenya region is complaining? You get? Because of the perception that since you produced the President, you should have unlimited access.
Yes.
That is not what the Constitution requires. And on this matter, I think I tend to agree with the President. He seems his reading and understanding of the Constitution matches what is expected of him.
Okay.
You can't corner the President to channel development to a particular region because he comes there. That is what the law has rejected. So if you imagine,
do you even follow the law in this country?
We don't follow the law. In fact, what happens is this. No. Mheshimiwa, let me just put this
to the best.
This is what happens.
Exactly.
During the electioneering period, yes. I mean, and even now, we have seen that politicians don't care for the law unless that law matches their political partisan positions. They want an interpretation of the law that advances. No.
Because I sit here and I'm a politician.
Listen.
And that doesn't match what I think.
No, listen. And the elected leaders, I can just narrow down.
Yeah.
We saw during, by way of example, we saw during elections, Jubilee, for instance, preferring a manipulative reading of the law. Preferring an approach that expands preservation of the result no matter what. And everyone was saying, listen, you can't change election laws halfway. And they deepened that crisis. And we saw NASA, also the political elite. But then, to be sure, Ken, the political elite, the Jubilee administration, and the political opposition, they are sides of the same coin. In terms of philosophy, they are joined at the hip. They are politicians. What works for them is what they care for. If the reading of the law can be manipulated to advance a particular partisan interest, they'll go that way, without caring for an honest understanding of the law and caring what the people truly wants and what the law really wants. That is the governance crisis that we have in this country.
As a matter of fact, Ken, he is expressing also the behavior of lawyers. If you go to court, every lawyer tries to use the law to the advantage of their client, which in law is fine because he's trained to do that. But in politics, we have issues in Kenya that we must deal with.
Okay.
We have issues. Okay. What is my issue? We may not get sufficient development for the region of Mount Kenya if things stay as they are. If I want to lobby, what is the procedure to lobby for more funding? It is to deal with the formula. The formula now is in its stage of the second phase, the second formula, which is coming now. If we want to do proper delivery of service to Kenyans, I am saying let's deal with revenue allocation.
Okay. I need to ask you a quick question. I need to ask him a quick question. Do you have the feeling also that the larger Mount Kenya region has been neglected with 3 successive
Neglect is
presidents?
the wrong word. There could be more that would happen in the central region.
There could be more that could happen.
More that will happen.
We don't have an issue with how this was brought up, and you said it. Perhaps people are taking it out of context. But I want you to watch this statement from the president and tell me, is this the reason why there's a lot of tension now from that region? Let's take a look.
Siasa ya kusema ati kwa sababu mtu ametoka pahali fulani ati kusema maendeleo itaelekezwa pahali fulani. We want a country where every single citizen is entitled to development regardless of where the leader comes from. Hiyo ndio siasa tunataka Kenya hii. Kwa hivyo hawa washenzi wawachane na mimi.
Kula milioni ngapi? 8. Milioni 8 imekuwa ni ya washenzi. Basi hiyo kula milioni 8, washenzi milioni 8, tutakaa pamoja. Na tutafuta tutaenda wapi na tutakaa namna gani. Na wale wanafikiria tunatoka Jubilee, hakuna. Watatoka Jubilee, watu wache tukae nini? Jubilee.
Well, development is equated now to votes, according to him, and also mentioned the fact that the president was right until the last end of that statement. I think that's where the problem is, when he mentioned Washenzi.
I think the only word I would have probably preferred to use is equitable distribution of resources in that statement.
Okay.
Yes. If you remove the Washenzi,
okay.
The president
was it right until that point?
Until that point. And of course, the anger of a politician, the president is a politician. When people start calling him names over the public rallies, he's bound to get angry.
Okay.
But anger is not what I'm interested in here.
Okay.
Is what is it that I would want to see?
But as a result of that, now Kenya, people are not talking about what should be spoken about.
Yes, now it looks like it's a Mount Kenya problem.
Yes, Mount
right
Kenya
now.
problem. Yes.
It's a Mount Kenya issue now.
Yes.
And it is not a Mount Kenya issue. We are narrowing it down to Mount Kenya.
Okay.
Because it is
because
Mount
they're the
Kenya
ones who have also spoken.
And you can notice that people have laid back. Other people have laid back.
Exactly.
They want to leave it to Mount Kenya people to slice each
other.
As he
said, as Steve said, if Mount Kenya is complaining, who will complain?
As I said earlier, I support the sentiments by His Excellency the President. I mean, all through. I only don't like, or rather, don't agree with his expression, his way of expressing himself. And of course, although that has been his latest character so far, with a lot of respect to him, his second term behavior is different from how we used to know him in his first term, and perhaps because he knows he's not going to run again. But then, what he clearly stated is so, it's something that is actually what the president should actually be saying. I mean, really, you cannot talk about development while thinking about your area. Just like us, when you get voted, we get voted from some areas, and some areas don't vote us. It doesn't really mean that when I get my small CDF allocation, I limit some places just because they never voted for me. I mean, that is a backward way of thinking. For Honorable Ngunjiri, there are people, politicians look for attention whichever way and from whatever angle. The way Ngunjiri expressed himself today, to the extent of getting to the street to protest and calling and saying, okay, we've been called Washenzi, I don't know the better term to use, but I think that is naivety of the highest order. You cannot come out to protest. You're telling the people that you represent that now we've been called, truly now is becoming Mshenzi, to be very honest. I mean, you are leading those people. You're now telling them we are protesting against the president. I mean, why are you telling these people that you're equally helpless? Yet, the policy statements are going to be brought before the floor of the House this February, for this year. You've got your voice before the floor of the House. Really, do you really expect, do you need to get to the streets wearing T-shirts and say, we've been called Chelsea?
As a matter of fact, what should happen, if I just follow up on this, what Ngunjiri should be saying is that we need now to change and make sure that one man, one vote.
Okay.
That is a topic that has been discussed in this country for a long time. And if you look at the larger portion of revenue, it is not distributed kulingana na huduma kwa jamii. It is 45 only based on popularity. I mean, in terms of people. The rest are other parameters.
Okay.
Geographical size, poverty, index,
had
all
even
those
forests
things.
and natural resources
Yes.
that looked
But if these people, as he says, they want to bring resources under President Kenyatta's rule the next 3.5 years, they have enough time now to run to Bunge.
To do it. Exactly.
Okay. And participate in budget making and make sure that if they are not satisfied, then do not pass Kenyatta's budget.
Okay.
Reject it.
Ken,
You know what I'm saying,
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
So really, let's not confuse issues here.
Okay.
The Mushenzi thing, the Washenzi thing, it's making us look really
Very
silly.
No, I think the
you know, as a country.
The president is well placed. The president is well placed. Mushenzi is a sycophantic fool. If people like Honorable Mujiri can tell Kenyans that 8 million votes, he has not read Article 131 that says once you become the president, you've been sworn in, you're the president, you're the head of state and government. You represent everyone.
Yes.
Resource allocation, distribution, management is to the benefit of every citizen. If an elected leader calls a press conference and is given airtime to air Ushenzi, telling Kenyans, reminding the president that you are elected by 8 million voters, what is Ngunjiri in effect saying? That those who did not vote for the president should not expect services. And this is what I was saying, that these elected leaders have not disinherited the culture of bad manners, the culture of patronage. They are still living in the past. I think on this particular issue, the president gets it right. And what they ought to have done is to beat a hasty retreat and then reorganize the ideas. Because I know within all this is the idea to consolidate the space in Jubilee for William Ruto to run. But you can do so without necessarily antagonizing the people, without necessarily attacking the constitution and disrespecting the institution of the presidency. That is what is lacking so far.
Okay. There is something that I need to be clear about. And I think we need not to be placed, to be in the right position right now to discuss about politics of regions. Like, this region is facing this challenge. You see, we're just from the maize discussion. And you saw politicians from the Rift Valley, coming out and complaining about the maize discussion. We also saw the sugarcane discussion from the western part of the country. People came out complaining and stuff like that. Now today we are talking about central discussion. Probably tomorrow we'll again start talking about, Kisii discussion and say probably we need a banana factory or something. This kind of politics is, I think this is the politics that was done in 80s and 90s. I think we need to move forward. We need to start thinking differently.
Okay.
And the expression done by the leaders, like they want to take us along in the discussion of Central Kenya and mix it with the succession politics, should actually not be part of the discussion. We should be focusing on the Big Four agenda that the president is really fighting to leave as a legacy in this country. Not discussing about, you called us Washenzi, now you did this, you are expressing yourself this much. And that is not the discussion that we should be having.
Unfortunately, that's the discussion we're having. Gentlemen, we're coming back after this break, and we still have a lot to discuss, including the talks about marginalization. I also like to talk about the comments from David Murathe, who was until the weekend was the interim vice chair of Jubilee Party. And I also want to discuss about what is owed to who, so the politics of debt. As we leave, let's listen to this as we take a break.
Mambo kazi yetu ni kupiga kura. Baada ya kupiga kura, maendeleo tunapatiana kwingine. Hiyo ujinga tuache. Ndio ujinga tufanye nini? Hiyo ujinga tufanye nini? Kufungua maji kwingine. Kufungua barabara kwingine. Kufungua stima. Tukikuja hapa Kiambu, atino horo wako hena certificate ya jovu.
We know that Mount Kenya region contributes over 60% of our country's GDP. Yet only 20% comes back to its people.
If he automatically becomes president without going for the mandate from the mwananchi, what mandate does he have? Si ni ile walichaguliwa nayo? Kwa sababu ikiwa wewe uko kwa hiyo for 2 terms, then that is why 148 says you can't run again. Najim, I want an advisory opinion. Na tutaenda mpaka Supreme Court. Sisi hatucheki na watu.
And welcome back. With me in studio is Honorable William Kabogo, former Governor, Kiambu County. First Governor, Kiambu County, Sylvanus Osoro, who is a Member of Parliament for South Mugirango, and of course Steve Ogolla, who is an advocate of the High Court. Explain this to us, Steve. Explain this to us. What was Murathe referring to?
You know,
we are lost.
Murathe begins well, but he says something that still reinforces the perception that he can take leave of common sense if he wants. Now, Article 148, Sub-Article 8, does not require judicial interpretation unless you want to file an application for an advisory opinion for the nuisance value. The office of the Deputy President cannot be deemed to be the office of the President. So that debate, if you want to have a narrative that excludes William Ruto from the presidency, there are multiple lanes you can take. But you can't scrutinize the Constitution, have a manipulative approach to interpretation, weaponize ignorance, and then corner all of us to support you. And then you say, even over and above supporting you, you want to burden the judiciary with a frivolous and vexatious application to apply its mind. I think Murathe, if he's watching, he should withdraw that statement, apologize to reasonable Kenyans, because otherwise, what he has done is to demoralize the right-thinking Kenyans that listened to him on that day.
Okay, now.
I mean, that's that.
I am lost, but before I listen to him, where was the problem? Because you said he began really well.
He began really well. Yeah. You see, the greater freedom is the freedom of viewpoint. You have the freedom of expression, thought, and opinion. And you can say, I don't support William Ruto for so many reasons. But then you can't descend to the arena of manipulating the Constitution. In fact, he reinforces the pre-existing perception that the public have about political elite, that they can manipulate, scrutinize the Constitution, have a manipulative approach to interpretation to advance certain entrenched political interest, even in matters that are plain in law. So he gets it wrong by attempting to manipulate the Constitution and attempting to corner Kenyans to accept that view by trying to patronize Orengo to say something against something that is so brazenly off the law. I think that was very indecent.
And we're glad, as lawyers, we're glad yes. Orengo didn't speak. I want to speak to him, but the reason I have to speak to the first governor of Kiambu County is you were the first in 2016 to talk about it's not automatic that we will support. Yes. You have to come to us. You have to seek for the vote.
Yes.
You were the first to speak about it.
And that is still my position.
It looks as though they are enforcing your position.
No. If you try and equate me with that, you will now suffer serious damages. Because as a matter of fact, you people have over-amplified this story. It should not even be given...
But you did even on your Twitter.
No, I'm saying,
yes.
It should not be given 5 minutes of airtime.
We should have forgotten about it.
Surely, a Standard 7 would have just read Article 148.8 and say, that's not what it says. It says simply, the Deputy President will not run for a second term after 2 terms.
As deputy?
As deputy. It is as simple as that. So surely, as he says, the agenda is something else. If the agenda is to stop the Deputy President, find other means. Do not try and play around with the Constitution. This is a very serious document, my friend. Very serious indeed. And what I said then was that, Bwana DP, please do not expect automatic support. You must come and talk to us. You must give us development. We must be confident that you will take us to the next level. At that time, I was almost roasted. I was an enemy of everyone.
I think you're roasted.
I'm telling you, I was an enemy of everyone.
Yes.
Except the DP himself. He understood and said, vile huyu Kabogo anasema, mimi naelewa. Siwezi pata kiti nikikaa nyumbani, mpaka nitembee kila mahali. Na mimi nimezoea kutembea na yeye. So that and what brother is saying are two different things. I still stand by that fact. You have a right to stand on a Deputy President.
Okay.
It is not obvious that you will get my vote.
Yes.
You know, we can't talk. You know, these guys talk like there is a place they have placed some votes, you know, and it is their votes. It is individuals, Kenyan, one and the other, 8 million, as he says. Yes. You must convince 8 million of them to vote for you.
Okay.
So this Murathe debate is a different debate.
Okay.
I wish I would have no time to debate this any other time, because it is waste of time, really.
I equally used to take these Murathe guys so serious until recently when he lied to the public that he's resigned as the Jubilee vice chairman. He was actually fired. He needs to come out clear and say what happened. He was actually fired for undermining.
We didn't see a letter.
No, he was actually forced to resign. You know, that is being fired. It is being fired. You see, you're like,
by who?
Let me tell you.
Yes.
This gentleman has been undermining undermining the goal of His Excellency, the vision of His Excellency, the President. The President has been telling us not to politic until 2022, and we stick to the Big Four agenda. And it's not, you do not really need to be a rocket scientist to understand that clearly. It is out of the way the President held a presser last time with the journalist in Mombasa. Later, just within few days, the gentleman offered a letter of resignation. What I know, and from where I sit, Murathe was called and was told to pack his bags and get home because he was fired. And nobody should take that gentleman very serious, because the very same forces that are talking about development in central Kenya are the same forces that are talking about, you know, stopping William Ruto from being president in 2022. These are the same grouping of people who are looking for political dimension and political bearing. I mean, and even interpreting things wrongly. I mean, and talking about a different jurisdiction. You're even talking about interpretation of Article 148 in the Supreme Court. I mean, doesn't it know that every constitutional matter is defined by the High Court? He's talking about the Supreme Court lying to the masses and trying to excite some people.
He said opinion, looking for a legal opinion.
But you see, constitutional interpretation starts from the High Court. Mm-hmm. When you want anything interpreted by this good book, you will go to the High Court. Then, of course, if you do not agree with it, then you go upward. But he said he's going directly to the Supreme Court and seek his opinion. I mean, on Article 148, Article 148 is in the Constitution. So he ought to have gone, or if he has interest, he needs to get to the High Court first. But what I'm saying is this: these people are looking for political bearing. And by the way, I need to say this: that the people who are blaming Dr. William Ruto and saying he's campaigning, he's doing early campaigns, now know who is campaigning. I was in Sirisa with the deputy president in the homecoming of Honorable Waluke, Major Waluke, and I saw what we went to do there was development. But 4 days later, the gentleman led by Murathe went to the same area and started saying we've started a movement to stop William Ruto. So clearly, who is campaigning? In 2022, we are not campaigning.
Because that was going to be my question, Mheshimiwa. If you say the president fired Murathe for undermining him, undermining his vision...
Not the president. I need to be clear. Jubilee Party is a national party. And I'll say this. It's only in Siaya that there is no Jubilee member of parliament. The whole country, Siaya County. But all the other places have got a Jubilee member of parliament in one way or another. Now, you cannot say that the president owns Jubilee. But Jubilee has got membership. Trust me, Murathe was coerced by members all over to resign or get evicted forcefully, and they chose the best option to resign.
Resign, public. Okay.
I would imagine a little more that
of what happened.
To eject Murathe out of office required only 2 people above him.
Okay.
Because as far as I'm concerned, the hierarchy of the party is the party leader, deputy party leader, vice chair, secretary general, deputy, all that line. And what we could be telling the leaders of Jubilee is come out and tell us.
Okay.
You are the ones who fired
Murathe. Okay.
You know, and that will stop this debate
about
the issue of how he
left.
But he has left. Why did he leave?
Okay.
You know, the question is, why did he leave?
Okay.
He left because of these shenanigans.
Okay.
Also, if you're a careful observer, away from the manipulative intent of the law, Murathe's sentiments and people that amplify that could actually be beneficial to Mount Kenya region in this manner. You see, the perception that the deputy president was the automatic ticket. You know, sometimes negotiation is best finalized during crisis. So you heighten the crisis, the political temperatures, it corners Ruto to pick a running mate from that area to appease that region. That's also a possibility. No, we cannot neglect that. I mean, we cannot neglect that possibility. So in terms of careful succession strategy, it could very well work. But what I'm saying is this: we must have a certain threshold of decency in this country. It's lacking. We have Article 10 on national values and principles of good governance that binds all leaders. You have Chapter 6 of the Constitution. I think the elected leaders and the political elite, maybe with the exception of the first governor, Kiambu, who by the way is a very good and decent man in terms of mainstreaming public opinion, is done very well, and all of us can see that. I think it is possible to push political agenda, to negotiate without antagonizing the republic, without sabotaging the constitution, without blackmailing other people. That we can do. If Mount Kenya wants to negotiate for the deputy presidency, there are multiple pathways to that region. If Western region, or maybe Nyanza, wants to negotiate with anyone for anything, that's allowed. But to decampaign or delegitimize a certain political voice or certain region because of ethnic interest or political interest, I think that is an affront and an indecent attack on the Constitution. That is what the people rejected on 27 August of 2010 when we enacted this Constitution. I want Kenyans to recall that when it matters, the political elite will coalesce around each other and they will exclude you. But when it matters to them, they will mobilize using you and I to achieve certain political goals. You see, in this country, politics is organized around ethnic solidarity. So there's no room for ideology. There's no room for interrogating what someone stands for. Ruto is angling himself to succeed Kenyatta based on the arrangement of 2013. I brought these votes, I brought these votes, and that's why people like Oscar Sudi can emerge and tell Kenyans that someone like Tuju, who for a long time was seen to be the key plank in Jubilee, can now be reminded that we don't know why you left Luo Nyanza and joined Jubilee. You know, they're revealing their ideology, their organizing philosophy when they're angling for power. It's about interest formation, and interest is organized around ethnic blocks. That approach, if Kenyans don't reject it, it will prove to be more harmful than it can ever benefit any particular region.
Now that you've said that it's basically a way that William Ruto is setting himself based on what he brought, I want us to listen to what he had to say at one time when the notion that he is owed a seat or he's owed something for bringing something to Jubilee Party. When that was rife in the country, this is what he had to say.
ODM ati mkanifuata ati mnanifukuza Jubilee, haiwezekani. So if you think you are going to use the handshake to export conmanship into our party, we are telling you that's not going to happen. Fanyeni kazi ingine ya maana.
Raila anakuja kuingia kwa Jubilee, nataka kufukuza watu wengine. Upuzi mtupu.
Unakuta hata watu wa vyama zingine wanangojea endorsement ya leadership ya Jubilee. Sasa unashanga wewe uko na chama yako, alafu badala ya kujipanga na chama yako unangojewa ati Jubilee ikupatie endorsement.
All right, that's not the exact one I wanted, but what the deputy president was saying is no community, and when we get it, we'll try and play it, but he basically said that no community, no one owes him or anyone anything. So basically, let's listen to what he said.
No person, no community, no section of Kenya owes anybody, including myself, anything.
Is this an answer to you, Steve?
I'm just laughing because, with tremendous respect to the deputy president, he should go and lie to fools. He knows in his heart of hearts that he's owed. His people have said so. My former classmate, the senator Cherargai, has said, he has said several times that the candidate for Jubilee in 2022 is Ruto. Everybody knows, unless you're a fool or a crook or a visitor. Don't hold on, Mheshimiwa. The thing is this, what we want is this. We want the deputy president to appeal to all Kenyans and not think that Jubilee, because Jubilee succeeded itself in power in 2017, he can ride on the same platform without accountability, you know. So telling Kenyans that no community, you know, there's what is expressed verbally, but there's what you can also decode. I think if you look at the politics of Jubilee, Deputy William Ruto knows very well that if he keeps Jubilee intact, he's almost assured of his presidency. So the idea that no community owes anyone anything, that's just political rhetoric The underlying currents.
But we can use it against him.
It could be used against him.
Yes, it could be used against him. Why are you worried?
Has he done something to merit being elected as president? Has he done so? This is something that must be interrogated, and he must answer satisfactorily. Okay. He can't answer those concerns by a sweeping statement that no community owes anyone anything when his people,
himself.
When his people, the people around him who speak for him, speak with him, are speaking the contrary.
And one of them is here.
I speak to the deputy president. I even spoke to him before I came here, and I think at no point has he ever
asked you to tell us whatever it is you are saying. I don't think so.
You never did. But what ideally the deputy president is trying to do, and especially in that particular excerpt, he says how he is actually responding to what the narratives that were being, used by some leaders, making demands and saying, we are not going to support you. You've seen some people coming up with some funny hashtags, Kieleweke and stuff like that. Then he's like, okay, why do you guys think that really you owe me something? I'll go out there and hustle. By the way, the only politician that I know who is waiting to be given something for free is Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. And I do not think that the Deputy President is such kind of a politician. He's been doing round the country, he's moving around the country until he's been termed or called Tanga because he's extremely aggressive. In other words, what he's saying is that I can actually go there and talk to people and explain to them what I've done, and seek for their hand, or rather for their support for the 2022. But this narrative of saying, and that is why, by the way, some people have come out with narratives of stopping him and saying now we now feel this guy is extremely strong, his energy is in another level. So now the only way we can actually avoid him, or rather have him not, or making sure that he's not the president in 2022, is by stopping him, misinterpreting Article 148 because of his expressiveness.
Don't worry about the article.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, any person, and I'm sorry, I'm going back to Murathe, any person who is taking Murathe seriously should be, I don't know, I think any person who wants to take that gentleman seriously is not a serious Kenyan. Murathe is the same person who lied to Musalia Mudavadi in 2013 and told him, I've talked to His Excellency, then was the Deputy Prime Minister, and he's going to support you as the President. I mean, he's again gone back to lie to the same gentleman that, this time round we are going to support you. That guy is in business, I'm sorry. But that is what he wants to do, and he's in business, he's going to cash in again in this election and then go home. That is it.
I mean, regardless of the first governor, then we take a break.
Regardless of whether he's in business or not, the things that he says and the things that we are discussing are really absurd. On the issue of what the Deputy President has just said, on the issue of owing, owing anyone, Kenyans are not fools, honestly. I was on the table that negotiated TNA and
URP.
GRP. And the story of supporting Mheshimiwa Kenyatta for 10 years and supporting Mheshimiwa Ruto for 10 years is a true story.
Yeah. Said by the
Even
president, and we have the sound bite if you want us to pray.
Even the president you don't owe me.
Yes.
It is not, ignoring the fact that those discussions were there. And you will see people allied to either side saying different things today. But you will find them saying, we said this, and they play a clip of His Excellency the President saying,
yes,
wacha nifanya yangu 10, alafu tukuje 10.
You
know, that in itself is presumptuously there's supposed to be a deal. But if it's not a deal, what the DP is saying, even if it's not a deal today, I don't care. I will take myself there. And that's why I said many years ago, prove to Kenyans you have the capacity to lead Kenya. And that is what is important. It's not those other side shows.
Okay.
And whether people will support him, it's a vote that belongs to an individual. One man.
Not a community.
Yes.
Not a movement.
And let me tell you, I speak as a leader. We do not have a person who is representing us in as far as this matter of 22 is concerned.
Okay.
The community has not sat anywhere. Unless I did not know, I
Unless
was not invited.
Yeah.
But I can tell you for sure, there are no minutes anywhere of a meeting where we decided we will support or we will not support. Yes.
Right, gentlemen, we're taking a break. Let me take a look at some feedback. When we come back, I'd like to continue with that discussion that the first governor doesn't want to talk about. But Murathe, last year, in a different TV station, said in the second term of the president, I think it was 2017, the president will be brutal, we'll see more crackdown on corruption and all. And that's exactly what's happening right now. So if we could take him serious, and we've seen what he spoke about has really happened, why can't we take him seriously right now? I'd like to talk about that, but first, let's take a look at some feedback. Mike, what do we have? Right, this is on Twitter, and we have quite a lot. Frank says, I reiterate what Macharia Gaido said, that development is not a favor. We pay taxes to fund development. President or deputy and a letter. Next. Whenever Mount Kenya talks about marginalization, I think about El Molo residents of Loyangalani who have less than 50 kilometers of tarmac road and only one clinic serving over 2,000 residents. That's Frank Gada. Derito Murithi, I don't know if this is the governor or someone else. We all know corruption in Kenya will end the day Chapter 4 will be enforced and all public servants are forced to declare the wealth. Otherwise, we can politic every day and there will be no change. That's all, Mike? Okay, that's all. But I have quite a lot on my computer here. And Frederick Okango, Secretary General of Third Way Alliance, says the only parties, this is in response, Mheshimiwa, to what we were talking about, they're seeking the constitutional interpretation. He says the only parties that can go and make a request for an advisory opinion at the Supreme Court are the national government, state organ, or county government. Any other person can only enjoin themselves in the proceedings, which leave the court as an intervener. Murathe is none of the above. Okay, that's one. And the quite a number, I was about to read one here that was not really nice, but let's move on. We're not taking a break. Let's talk about the fact that we took Murathe serious when he spoke at a TV station in 2017, just before the election, and said if the president is re-elected, in his second term he will be brutal. We'll see a lot of crackdown. We'll see a different Kenyatta, and that's exactly, that's what we're seeing, even with the crackdown in corruption.
Has the president been brutal?
But we have seen the crackdown in corruption, at least that, Governor.
That is not very serious. That's not brutal.
That's not brutal.
That's
okay,
serious,
in your mind,
that's serious government business.
Okay.
Serious business that Kenyans want.
Okay.
And I even expect it more.
Okay.
He hasn't done enough.
So you think that has not happened in Murathe's term? But at least
So
this is not
that
what we
does
saw
not
in the
define
5 years. This is
you
not
know,
what we saw in the 5 years.
There is a problem here that no one wants to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
Murathe is known to be close to the president. So when Murathe speaks, many people assume
believe it's a mouthpiece of
that is a mouthpiece, is a messenger. And the only person who can tell us whether he has sent Murathe or not is His Excellency the President. But being fired from the party, that's an indicator that Murathe does not speak for President Kenyatta. But let me not get myself into trouble because I do not have, I don't speak here for the President. Neither do I speak for the Honorable Murathe. But let's not assume everything Murathe does. If Murathe goes and does something very silly somewhere, he will not be doing it on behalf of the president. But I would want also the president to come out and say, I did not send this guy. Because that will cool all these temperatures. You know,
it will only take a statement.
The Washenzi issue, I can tell you for free, it was not the Central Kenya Jeshi, you know, we call our young men Jeshi, that he was referring to. Definitely, it is those who are attacking him, and those who are Murathe, and Moses
Kuria,
and
who, by the way, succeeded the president in his seat in Gatundu
South. And the MP for Nakuru. Those are the guys who are
who
coming out to tell the president a few things that probably could have annoyed him. But now, if you look at social media, the president is in trouble with the region in as far as the Washenzi thing is concerned. And that is something else he would probably come out and clarify that this is what I meant. And that will cool some of these things. But the politics of 22, like it or not, this is what we are looking at.
I think in Murathe's comments, those are the comments you've just shown us about the president being more brutal and more purposeful in his second term is consistent with legacy politics that usually happens in the second term. You see the way Kenyan politics is organized, and I've decried this politics that is organized around ethnic solidarity. It makes governing so burdensome I think someone needs to be president to appreciate the kind of challenges someone who sits in that office faces. Because you owe people too much and you're aiming for re-election. You can only go so far. But you see, once re-elected, you can say, there's what, if you have a sense of moral and legal conviction, what you want to be remembered for, then the second term is the legacy term, you know, and you can afford to lose some friends. You can afford to take purposeful steps to consolidate your space as a president, because politicians will be cycled out. Many of them in 2022 will never see the House again. But you sit there having served 2 terms. What will you be remembered for? I think in the second term, the president seems to me more relaxed, more open, more reachable, and that is what I wish he could have done that in the first term. What he fails to do in terms of low-hanging fruits, I think when we need to reframe, I'm not decampaigning the big 4. I'm not decampaigning housing, I'm not decampaigning healthcare, I'm not decampaigning manufacturing. You know, these are excellent programs, you know. But in a country such as ours, we have low-hanging fruits. Can the president, as part of his legacy, consolidate his reputation for adherence to human rights standards? I mean, that's such an easy thing. Can he consolidate his legacy around transparency and accountability? We have not seen a matching aggression in terms of political accountability if you look at it in terms of the DPP's aggressive approach to prosecution. I have argued before that if you want to combat graft, corruption is best fought at the ballot in the first instance. In the second instance, corruption is fought through political accountability. I appointed you as a cabinet secretary. A department under your ministry has been entangled in corruption. I fire you. That is political accountability. It doesn't mean that you're criminally culpable. That is what the DPP ought to do. I think he needs to move with speed to consolidate his legacy around human rights protection, around the war on graft, around uniting Kenyans, because so far, if the Constitution is to be understood as organized around the ideology of inclusion, then politicians have moved us away the idea of inclusion. Now, in fact, I dare say, people in Nyanza now observe politics in national government looking at Tuju as a stern warning that next time you come out and say, I'm persuaded by politics of ideology and I want to support Deputy William Ruto, somewhere down the road, you'll be reminded, we wonder what Oscar Sudi was saying, what you are doing here. Your people are there. So these are the things that the president should be dealing with.
Okay.
The softer issues, because development is not the mega infrastructural projects. When you're dealing with deep-seated ethnic animosity, you're dealing with runaway corruption, you're dealing with this disproportionate resource allocation, these are things that you can easily correct by looking at what the law says, complying with the law, and then after you've satisfied this, the next person who comes after you can build on that. But I think he's more open now in this last term to pursue what he may consider as legacy projects. And anybody who tries to sabotage what he considers as legacy projects will, of course, be met with the kind of attitude
Steve,
that you've seen
there
now.
is no guarantee that where the president leaves this country is where the next person will pick it and build on it. He might actually...
You know, this
Yeah.
thing about first term and the final term, the president, not Uhuru Kenyatta, the president always wants a second term. And to do yourself a favor of getting a second term, there are things you cannot do in your first term.
Exactly.
And this is telling us, know that this is common, it's normal. How do we stop this? If, for example, we change our katiba and say 1 term, 7 years.
7 years, yes.
Once he is elected,
I'm
I'm only saying, following on what he has said, because the aggressiveness of the president now is saying it's on his second term, he doesn't want another term. There will be a time, Ken, when it will not matter who is president. For example, if we were to change our katiba to make sure that 70% of the resources of this country are sent to the devolved units, like, for example, health and water and agriculture. If you look at the national budget, it takes 70% of the national cake.
Okay.
So if 70% of the national cake was to go to the counties, no one will talk about agriculture. No one will talk about we don't have enough hospitals. No one will talk about we don't have the resources. The resources will be there. So I want to tell the people of Mount Kenya, if there is anyone who wants to change Katiba, let us concentrate, number one, on the census that is coming, so we are counted. A referendum is done by simple majority. We can join others who think like us and say, let's get resources, not 15%. Let's get 45% minimum to the counties. It will not matter who is president. Remember that we are forgetting, how did we get the 2010 Katiba? It was because those days, Kanu Mama, Kanu Baba. It is how high you said Kanu that got you development.
Yes.
You remember?
Okay.
And we did these changes to make sure that devolution gives a wider spread of resources into the republic.
Okay.
So the people of Mlimani, let us concentrate. Census are coming. Let's
Yeah.
be counted
This is a
properly.
year.
Yeah?
Yes.
Let's go to this Katiba business if it's coming, and let's
With the
ask
numbers.
for resources to follow people. One man, one vote.
Okay. Mheshimiwa.
No, I wanted to go a little bit outside in regard to what they've said. And in as much as I agree completely, entirely on the whole thing about, getting the resources to the counties, however opposed on changing the Katiba to one-term president, or rather seven-year term, is it? 7-year term president.
1 year term of 7 years.
No, one term
of 7 years.
Of 7
yes,
years.
yes.
I mean, to me, that gives a lot of comfort. It again brings another challenge. It brings a lot of comfort. Mature democracies like the US, actually, the president goes for 4 years. And because of the devolved systems that are operational, very operational, the country is developed. But I wanted to deviate a little bit and talk about political MOUs. And you had mentioned about, there was no promise and stuff like that. And I think Governor had said that there was no promise. On this one,
didn't say
I'll be
there was no promise.
It wasn't
I
affirmative.
said even if it's not in writing.
Even if it's not in writing.
People discuss.
Exactly.
The president
And it was on the
himself said
table.
it.
Oh, exactly.
You
And
know,
that is,
whether it's going to work or it doesn't work, it was said. The deputy president is just diffusing this thing and saying, it's okay, I'm not old.
I don't need it, yes.
Exactly. In other
I'm
words,
not old myself. And he says.
Exactly.
So
because
who do we believe? Him, isn't it?
of course, the deputy president we can believe because he's next now on slaughterhouse. Now, what I'm thinking, in my view, that these political MOUs we should probably, and I think that is the amendment that I'm going to push this once we resume from recess, that Political Parties Act, we should actually have an amendment to have these political MOUs well recognized, probably on contractual basis or something, and make serious commitments. Steve is against that, but I think it's very important because I think we are seeing a lot of political dishonesty in our country. I mean, we've seen it in both angles. We've seen it all through it back in history. You saw Kalonzo Musyoka complain about Raila Odinga the other day. You had said you'll run once. And
you also saw Raila Odinga complain.
And you saw Raila Odinga complain it was shortchanged in 2007. And by the way, I thought, and I still believe that probably that is not the direction we are going. When all the other smaller parties of Jubilee were dissolved, and a bigger house was created called Jubilee. Probably, trust me, I think I was cornered in some way, but I thought that now we started politics on matters of policy, that our politics is almost changing, that we are now going to have this a big party on the other side and another big party on the other side, just like mature democracies in the world. And I actually didn't know that along the way, we could get characters like, with a lot of respect to David Morathe, who will come out and say, we do not want this. And this begs the question that, was this gentleman, or rather, was the party genuine while clearing the deputy president to run as a deputy president in 2017? Because I think it's the same officials that cleared him to run as deputy president because he was actually on the ballot. But abruptly, the guy has become different.
There was no contest. There was no contest
at that time because it was
but
continuing.
he was a subject as the
continuing.
party leader, vice chair. I mean, he knew some of these things that we didn't know, as he alleges. I mean, this character, this thing of being dishonest, all through that marriage of convenience, that let's now come together because we have this common agenda, then once you outlive your usefulness,
they can do away with
you are branded something different, that you are called now something and stuff like that, a thief and everything. Those things really.
You know, I'm not in Jubilee now because, you know, obviously what happened during nominations. We had to, you know, cut a corner. If I go back there, right now I'll be campaigning for the president to come out and speak as a party leader. Because some of the things that are happening will not happen if the party leader speaks.
What if he's already speaking?
I'm talking about speaking nationally.
I agree with you. And let me cut
is
you.
a national party. And there are issues that the vice chairman of the party has said.
Yes.
And then he's fired.
He needs to come
now
out
I'm
and
told
say.
he was fired by
He was coerced by members.
Yes.
Yeah.
So really, the president may speak through his secretary general and say, he has said enough.
Yes.
We do not want these things of siasa. Mimi nataka legacy.
Let me throw some.
You know what I'm trying to say? Because we leave things hanging.
Okay.
We talk about
just in connection to what he's saying.
You know, a man and a wife are
on the political party.
In connection.
Yes.
It is
I'll talk to you
other
about the
people who are
political
talking
parties
about a
because-
relationship.
Yes.
You understand?
They should
It is
speak
not the
themselves.
man and wife who are
who are
talking
speaking.
about the
Or
relationship.
even if they're speaking, they're saying different things.
Correct.
Yes.
But in
So
connection.
they're the only ones who can sort out this issue of the party.
But remember, the deputy president tweeted today a series of tweets clarifying and urging for unity. You saw all those tweets that he put up.
And I have seen nothing wrong with those tweets.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong, absolutely. In fact, it throws people off completely
Yes.
because that's not what people expect. But as you comment about political parties, because we're short on time also, talk about the possibility that Jubilee is sinking. This is the time that Jubilee is splitting and it's going down, and the next election we're not having a Jubilee party.
The short answer is that Jubilee is collapsing like a pack of cards.
It's collapsing.
It's collapsing like
Okay.
sooner than
Okay.
you think.
Okay.
Because there's no organizing philosophy other than partisan interest. Some people have achieved their interest. They don't see any legitimate need to continue preserving that space unless you can reassure them that there's some space for you, without which Jubilee has collapsed.
Okay.
If we go by trend.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Political parties in Kenya are operating outside the constitution. I want Kenyans to understand this. If you look at the constitution, you know, Article 4 says Kenya is a multi-party democracy. That has meaning in law and even in the practice of our democracy. It means that political parties are constitutional structures that are supposed or intended to deepen the philosophy in the constitution. The philosophy of inclusiveness, are we seeing that in Jubilee? I'm asking you, can we say with certainty and evidence, looking at how Jubilee MPs have antagonized the constitution, how they've antagonized the republic?
In the last 6,
Can we really say?
In the last 6.
Can we really say with certainty and evidence that Jubilee is advancing the ideals in the constitution? They're not. They certainly are not. Political parties, and now this goes to all political party formations, are operating outside the constitution or parallel to the constitution. When there's a convergence, then they will say the constitution permits, especially when you want to increase political funding. But when the constitution has provided a predictable pathway that you must go this way, and that pathway is not convenient for partisan political interests, then they will reject the constitution, they will create their own way, and then they will corner you to support them, to follow them in that way.
Okay.
Kenyans must decide that the constitution emphasizes individuality with the people. Article 4, the rights of the individual. Ethnicity is only mentioned in terms of celebration of cultural diversity. It is only mentioned in terms of recognition of ethnic minorities that require special programs and protection. But if you look at our political elite, they use ethnicity to mobilize political support. They use ethnicity to acquire power. And once they acquire power, power is not intended to benefit the masses. And Kenyans must understand this. You must de-emphasize the place of political parties, the place of these our political leaders, and begin to interrogate and question them and demand answers. Because governance in this country, I've already stated, the political elite don't look at governance, leadership opportunity as an opportunity to serve the masses. They look at these opportunities as a decent chance to be co-opted into the club of resource managers. And the people have been cornered to believe that. Cornered by who? Cornered by elected leaders, the couriers of this world.
Same people.
Who tell people that this region, we voted for you, 8 million plus. Where's development? Where does that leave the people that voted for political opposition? Where's the inclusiveness?
Where they've always been.
The first governor of Kiambu is talking about. That is where the problem is talking. That's where the problem is coming about. We don't need more law in this country. We need a sense of shame, a sense of decency, a sense of responsibility. These are things, Ken, that you can't legislate and you can't litigate. You know, democracy demands patience.
Okay.
Patience presupposes a measured level of honesty. You know, because you are working towards a transformative approach. You consolidate this in 2013, you move to 2017, you consolidate something else, you move 2022, then you have what you consolidated in 2013 and 2017 and 2020. Now you have a measured settlement below. But now, the way we are flip-flopping and reversing and backpedaling, I can only say, if we are not careful, this country will remain stranded. Years will be moving, we'll be celebrating 10 years post the new constitution, 20 years, 50 years. But in terms of governance, you will not notice any difference between Kenya and Uganda.
Okay.
Despite having a robust constitution.
All right. Governor, you wanted to say something?
My friend, looking at the trend of parties, right from 2002, we have never gone to the election, or those who win have never gone to the election on the same party, on the same bus. We keep changing. What we are seeing now are signs of Jubilee can't hold together again for the next election. What is it that needs to be done? You're talking about the electorate. People, we are the ones who choose these guys. The first time you choose an MP like that one, who do you blame thereafter? You see what I'm saying? The time you choose a senator like that one, a governor like that one, when will things change? So we are doomed if we continue electing them the way we do. Na ndipo tunasema in Swahili, because many people listen to Swahili, chaguo ni lako. Ukitaka kuchagua kiongozi, chagua kiongozi atapeleka Kenya to the next level. Sio atapeleka tumbo yako na familia yako na jamii, tribe yenu kupeleka mbele. This thing, our own, where did that thing come from? Honestly.
Our person.
Yes. You can hear now a few guys in the Rift saying mtu wetu is being targeted.
Exactly.
Okay? Utasikia tena mtu wetu anatukanwa. When will we finish this thing about mtu wetu?
Okay.
And you know, this tug of war here now, you can see we are avoiding to speak what is happening. Look at social media. They are talking about Raila and Uhuru are coming together to stop this one. This is what is being discussed. But we are avoiding it here. Where
we can't discuss it.
I'm saying it is because of those parameters that have been set. So the minute we'll have a genuine dialogue about taking this country to the next level, that is the only time, Ken.
Although I stopped taking social media very serious, I can't really take social media as an authority on anything, in as much as I've seen such ranting all over. Because the time I stopped, I actually stopped taking social.
Wait until they find you without your pants in some place. That is when you will know it really
the reason why I'm saying that. For some reason, I thought that Peter Kenneth could become the president of Kenya in 2013. The comment that you could see on social media in support of Peter Kenneth then, you know, do not go into them with the results.
No, it was not comments that were there. It is the following.
And the likes, and the following, and stuff like that.
If you have 300,000, the same with some pastor who ran a church here, and he wanted to
be president.
Yes, exactly.
Because of the following.
Yes. Exactly.
So that is different than what I'm talking about. The discussion on social media now about betrayal.
The real things that people are discussing are the things we shy from
saying. And the language they're using against the president, it's unprecedented.
That is very true. But I can say that, in my opinion, the best legacy the president can leave in this country, even as he moves to his last term completely, is political stability in the country and strong pillars in terms of political parties. And I actually thought that that was his vision. Trust me, in as much as we talk about, we need these better health centers and stuff like that, that is very important. But if we can't leave a serious political stability in this country, a kind of a structured political stability that probably will define our politics from regions and tribe and everything to policy, then I don't think, because I believe he stands a better chance in doing that, owing to the fact that as we speak right now, he's gotten a new brother, that they sit together and talk. The guy that probably, in my view, could have opposed him if he was in the other side, he's now with him, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. He has the deputy president. Those are the political players, the current top political players in this country. Trust me, instead of, I see a section of leaders, especially those from, with a lot of respect again, those from the side of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, celebrating that now Raila Odinga is closer to the president, and now that means the exit of the deputy president, and that is now the discussion that is on, and people are saying, the handshake
made by James Orengo or somebody saying, you guys,
exactly,
you're out of government, you should now think and come into government.
Actually,
those sentiments
some of my colleagues, DM tell me that, you guys who are supporting deputy president are in opposition. So clearly, we need now, and I think it's now, this is the right time for the president to come out clearly, because now what I'm seeing is that the president is actually fetching water. He had some kind of, the container he had a leakage. And then he's decided to cover the leakage, to seal the leakage, but he's opened another leakage, and still he wants that water to be full. It's not possible for such a container.
I believe the president can come out with Raila Odinga and William Ruto, and tell the country, let us stop this politics.
Exactly.
And it will stop.
And
it
will stop.
Then the tenants will go talking.
No.
That's why I say, when you see Morona speaking, you see Mitsuru.
We only speak because we only speak because we believe there is undermining.
You should be able to
know who's speaking.
Exactly. And by the way, he's been mentioning about Sudi, and by the way, to be very honest, and I'll say here that Sudi is not an authority. He does not speak for Dr. William Ruto. He's just a supporter like I am. Just like I'm not an authority for Dr. William Ruto. I'm not an authority, and I don't think Sudi is.
We really need to end. So,
what we really cannot undermine, you see, if this country were to collapse, we've emerged from a very difficult situation where we nearly had two presidents, quote unquote. If the country were to collapse, who would take responsibility?
Uhuru Kenyatta.
I mean, it's the president.
Yes.
The president has proved that when required to stand for the country, he's done so. I mean, there's always, if you're the head of state, you always have the opportunity to respond with force, to crack down on opposition, on dissident people who are obeying the law, people who seem to be going contrary or against the constitution. The president has a pleasant personality, if you ask me, and it has earned him political dividends. Thanks to Raila Odinga and the president, there's a bit of stability. The only thing I would urge is this: the philosophy around the handshake was not properly articulated. It needs to be well explained. I wish that there was some honest admission of how the political elite from both sides manipulated the constitution, went against it, antagonized the people, the republic, to push a certain agenda.
Are you talking about politicians?
I'm talking about the two
politicians.
I mean, we are there. I'm talking about the two leading political formations. The handshake must be credited to the president because he reached out. Raila also reached out. You can't devalue that because of 2022 succession politics.
Okay.
You get? Okay. That must always be preserved. It's very important.
Okay.
Going forward, what we need now, I think we need Kenyans to remain vigilant. We need Kenyans to remain vigilant. As long as you remain cheerleaders, you will one day pay the bitter price. Remember, in 2007, this country established its capacity for barbarity. And it's not beyond this country to go back there, isn't it? Yeah. If Kenyans don't reflect, if we don't agonize around what ails this country, the lack of responsibility, a sense of shame, a sense of decency, we will not be able to say that we've reached a level where our democracy or our political processes have matured. Okay. That is what we need.
I think mine is simple. Let's tell our leaders, do not leave vacuums and let people to start, guessing what is going on. Come out and speak to Kenyans.
Okay.
Tell Kenyans,
exactly.
This is what is going on.
All
and
right.
all these things will end. They'll cool down.
Gentlemen, we have a segment known as Toonside. It talks today about what we have been discussing. I'd like you gentlemen to take a look at that cartoon. That will be shortly on the screen, and I want you to comment about it. That's President Uhuru Kenyatta, and behind is a bee That's succession politics following him. And he's trying to drive young baby, which is still the big four agenda. But the succession politics is overwhelming, as you can see. Your comments. I'll begin with Steve.
I think that reflects the inner drama of the presidency, that there are things you want to do because the country rests on your shoulders, but you can't do it because there are people who want to succeed you and are obsessed with succession. So he has to balance all that, not drop the ball, while also fighting the stinging attacks. That's what I think that really captures very well. The inner drama of the presidency.
Okay, inner drama of presidency.
No. That one does not reflect the scenario we are at or we are in. Because my opinion is everything rises and falls on leadership. The president is not under any pressure. He still sits on the throne. He's still the president. He can stop anything when he wants. Nobody has stopped him from, pushing the agendas that he wants.
He just told you to read there.
To look at that cartoon.
Look at that and analyze that
cartoon. Yeah.
That's what he knows about what is happening. But from there, you can see that the bees are headed for him.
For him, he's really trying to find
out. He only needs to put the doom down.
The explanation of this then could be, he owns those bees. Yes. He knows the way to have them back.
That's according to him. That's
exactly. He knows the way to get them back. And I think he simply wants to run away from the bees, yet he knows the way
but
to
he's fighting the bees also.
He shouldn't be fighting the bees because he actually has the will.
Okay.
He has a doom card. Yes. He has a doom card.
Yes.
First of all, I'm interpreting that he now is feeling the danger. And he has to kill the bees because they are stopping him from heading towards the big four.
Big four agenda. Or to push the big four agenda.
Yes, and all probably the cartoonist would have done to capture the situation as he imagines it to be is for him to stop and get some smoke. You know, bees are cool by smoke. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then deal with the issue of the bees and then continue on his track to take Kenya to the next level. Who are these bees?
Succession. They are coming from the house of succession politics. You can say.
So succession is who is going to be president in 22.
Yes,
that is the story.
So he's the owner of the bees because he's the house.
No, that is the story.
That's the story.
Yes.
Okay.
That he is overcrowded by people talking about 22. I said this time without a number.
Okay.
That we can continue doing what we are doing, and can we first imagine that the deputy president is doing his job by going around Kenya? You see what I'm saying?
He's actually doing his job.
If it is his job he's doing, why then do we have to interpret that
exactly
he is campaigning? I'm not saying he's not. He's a clever man. You can do both. You see what I'm saying? But these bees need to be stopped. If they are not stopped, the guy will not make it on the big four.
That one I agree.
Yes.
And by the way, even as we stop
and I have
those
a lot
bees,
of respect saying the guy, I mean the president will not make it.
Yes.
If he continues to be chased by succession bees.
What
and
the
who
cartoon,
are these bees?
What the
this
cartoon
is,
lacked.
now you mentioned them.
What
the
Morales, exactly.
You know, Kurias is there. You know, this Sudi is mentioning him.
Yeah.
All these guys.
They're the bees.
What the cartoon lacks is the picture of the support base for His Excellency the President, and that is the Deputy President, because he's actually not pushing that wheelbarrow alone. He shouldn't be moving the wheelbarrow alone, and I think that brings what the governor said.
He's trying to put the Deputy President in
the which now brings the interpretation that you've said, that this narrative of when the deputy president probably like moves to Nyeri or goes to Nyeri to commission some health center and stuff like that, and then we interpret that to politics and say, you know, the deputy president has come to campaign. I mean, really, why should people interpret that? He came to my constituency, commissioned some roads, and people said we are campaigning. I mean, roads are ongoing, the construction is ongoing. I mean, we should, and I think there is a group of people that are scared of the job of the deputy president because of his aggressiveness, and they really think that he's out there campaigning because they have nothing to tell people, and I think that should be clear.
You know,
and I think for me, I'll give them.
When is it?
I wanted
Ken, this is important.
Yes.
When is it we will see HE the president, HE the deputy president, HE Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi, and those guys who control those parties, sitting in some boardroom and coming out and telling us the agenda
like a joint press conference
of bringing
regarding
Kenya together,
yes.
is moving now to the next level. Because when that move is made, all these noises will stop.
Quiet. I agree. All right, gentlemen, we are out of time and I want to thank you. However, I have 30 seconds for each your closing remarks because we have to end. I begin with you, Mheshimiwa.
No, mine will dedicate the good book of Psalms chapter 3 verse 1 to the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and tell him to focus on the big four just as the president wants and stuff like that, and to the Kenyans, we ignore these side shows that we are hearing left, right and center by busybodies, and just know that this country is united. We respect all our leaders, we respect the president, we respect Raila Odinga, we respect the deputy president. And I think these other things that you are seeing, or this social media noise and stuff like that, should actually stop, and people should know that leaders are chosen by God, and they come at a time.
Okay.
Exactly.
Leaders are not chosen by God.
Steve, you have
they are. Go read the good book of Romans chapter 13, verse 1.
Kenyans must reduce reliance on politicians, and they must reject attempts to mobilize them along ethnic lines. They must reject that.
They must reject. Okay. And
let us pray to God that Kenya continues to be a safe country as it is, and let us ask our leaders to cool down. Let's ask our leaders to cool down, and let's dedicate our country to God and prayer, so that, as he says, leaders are elected or selected or appointed by God. Did God appoint Idi Amin? Did God appoint Hitler? God gives people the wishes,
the leaders they deserve.
That they deserve. Okay. So that we pray to God to allow us to get leaders that we deserve.
You know, the first
and also not keep the country in a mood of elections. Year in, year out, about elections.
Okay.
They come and go. I am outside. I'm not in office.
Yes.
But my life continues.
True.
Why is it that we don't take that attitude? And must you be the president? Why don't you think someone else can be the president?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. And thank you, Mheshimiwa Tom Odege from Nyatika. He's also been participating in this program. And also Mheshimiwa Kutuny for also sending the feedback. I'd just like to read this one because it's important. And he was the former advisor, political advisor to the president before he went back for his seat and won. His Excellency Uhuru is setting an agenda that most politicians in his political divide will be surprised. Anyone who wants to survive this political strategy must learn to remain silent and avoid using busybodies to blackmail the president. I think there's a time the president said that his choice will also shock Kenyans. So this is the president who said that the choice he'll make in 2022 will surprise Kenyans. Thank you very much.
And the choice he makes.
He makes, even for...
He has one vote.
He has one. Oh, yeah, one vote. I remember that. Thank you very much for reminding me of that. And before we do the final part of the show, let's take a look at one or two feedback that we have from you. And this is Oguel Joel. He says, in politics, nothing happens unexpectedly. If it happens, it must have been planned. Murathe resignation was planned way before. I think he agrees with part of what you said about this thing must be planned. And James Lefmel, someone? Okay, after the Washenzi remarks, we know the bitter message is home. You should not build useless bridges while destroying the old and rather useful bridges. I assume. Is that the final one? Anthony Alexandria Irungu says, the day Kenyans will realize that the best development is that which builds, educates, equips, and empowers human capital, it will be the day they will vote for competent, qualified, and servant leaders. And the final one on Twitter, Kibi Elliot says, interesting how those anti-2022 politics keep the election talks active when lecturing us about how we should shun politicking. All right, very interesting. And gentlemen, you agree with some of those tweets. So let's do the final part of the show. Now, with the talks about the imminent split of the Jubilee Party following the close working relationship between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga and the whispers about the sidelining of Deputy President William Ruto, we go back 1 year. On this day, 1 year ago, specifically, I think it was on the 6th when the cabinet was appointed, there were also talks about a rift in the Jubilee Party following the nomination of cabinet secretaries before they were approved by Parliament. Now, on this occasion, unlike the first cabinet naming ceremony, the brotherhood exhibited in 2013 between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy was not shown. Further, there were talks that the cabinet appointment was done by the president himself without consulting his deputy, who would later go on record that the appointments were indeed the sole responsibility of President Kenyatta. Now, that was not all. The new cabinet had seen some top names dropped. Most were seen as allies to the deputy president, but it was not only the Jubilee Party that was grappling with the appointments. NASA, then strong and compact, rallied their members in the committees to snap the vetting of the new appointees. NASA also wanted all the appointees, including the continuing cabinet secretaries, be vetted. A good place to end our show tonight. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming and sharing, and thank you for watching. And of course, as always, we go offline, but we're still online, and they're all on Twitter. They'll be tweeting and responding to some of them. I've seen quite a number for Governor Kabogo. Thanks for watching. Let's do this again next week on Tuesday. Have a good night.